open up the floor for questions for Coach. Right here over to the right, Austin Ward, Rivals 97.1.
Ryan, I know it's a four-quarter game, so you do get credit for figuring out Iowa later on, but what did you think about the offensive execution there for, I don't know, quarter and a half, 2 quarters, especially in the red zone?
Yeah, interesting game when you start off with so many balls and plus territory there. You know, you look at the end of the game, where the score could even been different. But Iowa does a very, very good job up front, and they take away so many things in the middle and force you to really throw the ball. And we didn't do as good of a job executing running the ball early on, but we knew that it was going to take time to crack. It's just the way they are, and so I thought we played really good football there in the second half. Got a good bounce going a little bit, but I mean that kind of goes back to what we're talking about. Is when someone's going to stop one thing, you got to be able to do the other. And I would have liked to definitely execute it better on offense early in the game, but I think the story's about the defense and how well they played. But good to finally pull away there in the second half.
Over to the left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, it looked like Jackson tweaked something there, and then we didn't see him come back in the game. Just any updates you have on his?
Yeah, he was on a pitch count today, and then once he got to a certain number there, we decided to shut him down.
Over here to the right, Dylan Davis, Delaware the Gazette.
For an offense that's been humming along like it has, is there something to be said for winning a game like this where you just kind of had to grind and keep at it, and finally things start to open up? Is there?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's I guess not what we're used to here, but that's the reality of it. And certainly the fact that there was 56 points on the board, a big part of that was the defense today. But when you're playing against a really good defense, a top 10 defense, it's not just going to happen all at once. It's not going to be fireworks every series, but. I give Noah credit. We were able to put points on the board and keep that momentum going, and we felt like our defense was playing well, and we felt like if we had scored, a few of those touchdowns down there in the red zone, it would have been a different first half. But that's okay. A lot to learn from there and grow.
Over to the left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, Ryan, it seemed like Zach Harrison came out with a lot of energy today. Is that something you noticed too, and just what do you make of the way that he played today?
Yeah, I think he was one of a few guys who played with that type of energy. I thought Zach's playing some of his best football right now, and our defensive line, they're playing with an edge. I think you can feel it out there. You can see how fast they're playing. But Zach has really come along. He's practiced really well. I thought his leadership's been good, and I think you guys would agree he's probably playing his best football right now.
Over to the right, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Ryan, you guys had to burn a couple timeouts down in the short red area on offense. Just in those moments, what's happening? Like, what are you seeing? And then when you're on the sideline talking it out, what are those conversations like, and what did you think of the execution coming out of those moments?
Well, I get frustrated with myself first because there's just so many scenarios you try to go through down there, and we had a bunch of at-bats down there, and it's hard. They do an excellent job in the red zone. Historically, they've done a great job. And, you try to get exactly the right call based on the hash, based on where it is. And certainly in the first half, I think sometimes those timeouts are a little overrated because, typically you don't need them as much as you do in the second half. So when you're down in the red zone, if you have the right play, good. If you don't, I think historically we've decided to take timeouts if we didn't feel like we didn't have a really good look there. One in particular, we had a good play up. It wasn't the look we expected. There was a guy coming off the edge, and we knew we had a bad play called, so we got out of it. Another time, we just wanted to think about it a little bit more. Another time, Jackson, I think the ball was on the ground maybe, and there was a pile up on the ground, and they rewound the clock at 25, but it went really fast. And so by the time they got it, we looked up, it was like at 12 seconds, and I just didn't feel like at that time we wanted to run a play that wasn't a good play. And my fault, but I always, in those moments, I know how important those moments are. We know how important those moments are. We always want to get them, on the right call. We work so hard for that, and so mostly I just get frustrated with myself.
Over to the left, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, by his standards, CJ had a so-so first half, then he throws the pick on the first play of the second half. Then he got it together. I think it was 8 straight completions, 4 touchdowns. What clicked for him in the second half?
I think we just had to get into a rhythm on offense, and when you game plan, you pretty much start your mindset on the minus 25, somewhere in there, and then you have plays that you work, and then you kind of get yourself into the red zone. And it was weird because we were kind of in plus territory all day early on. It just never got into a rhythm of just kind of throwing things, and because the field was getting a little compressed. And I think you saw when we had to move the ball down the field, we were a little bit better, and he got into a rhythm that way. That's probably the only way I could describe why that was. But yeah, I mean, they're very, very good. They get their hands on balls. We had the one sack fumble early on. But we overcame it, and we kept pushing through. And we know that when we're playing against good defenses, things like that happen. But we can't continue to let those things happen. We got to learn from them and grow. But I think it was healthy for us to get a good challenge today.
Over to the right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, the Iowa offense is what it is, but is there something to be said for your defense to be able to do what good defenses do against an offense like this?
Yeah. I mean, started right from the get-go, and I thought we were aggressive. I thought Jim called a great game, but the guys played well. They ran to the ball, created turnovers, played hard, played physical, and didn't let up the whole game. And I think we had 6 turnovers and at least a couple 4th down stops. So, when we can play like that, it's great. So we've got to learn what we did well and figure out what we need to improve on. And we know we got a big challenge next week going to State College.
4th row middle in the left, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, back to Zach for a minute. Here's a kid who's a local kid. He comes in, a lot of pressure, playing in the shadow of the Bosas, Chase. Is this just one of these situations you always talk about, everyone has their own journey? How proud are you of him to get through that, fight through that?
Very. It started with recruiting. Zach was one of the first recruits, for me and Larry. We went into the home, and I'll tell a quick funny story about that. Wasn't sure how it was going to go in recruiting. I just been named the head coach, and Larry and I went into the home, and Tracy and the family were there, and went through the home visit, and I gave him a Buckeye at the end, and I said, "This is a Buckeye. I want you to have this." And he says, looks at me, he says, "Buckeyes are poisonous, Coach." And I said, I walked out, I said, "Larry, we ain't getting Zach." And about a week later, Larry comes in. I remember where I was because it was very important for us because Zach was highly recruited. He was a local kid, Olentangy Orange, obviously a tremendous talent and a great culture fit for us. And Larry walks in. He says, "Zach's going to be a Buckeye." He got him on the phone, and he committed, and that was a big deal for us. And he came in highly recruited. But when you look at Zach, he's got long levers. He's really tall, and he's had to grow into the position and grow into his body, and that doesn't just happen. It takes time. And I know everybody wants him to come in and be an All-American as a freshman, but everybody, like you said, has their own journey, and he's been on that journey. And I think he's made a lot of sacrifices. He's worked through some tough times, and you're seeing the best version of him right now.
We're going to go just a few more because we got players starting to come up over here to the right. Justin Holbrook, WCMH.
What did you see from Jordan Hancock, his first game back, especially with Cam Brown out today?
Yeah, I saw a good week of practice, and then made a few plays, and he does a really good job of playing the ball, and excited to get that game under his belt so that we can build on that moving forward.
Over to the left, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, you mentioned calling some timeouts in the red zone. I mean, you guys have been really good in the red zone all year. When you look at this game, do you look at it as like, hey, we still scored even though we kicked those field goals, or do you look at it like we need to turn those field goals into touchdowns even though we're scoring? Touchdowns.
That's it. That's all we focus on. Now, when we can get field goals, certainly we need to get points, and those are important to get. But, yeah, we're going to wish we had calls back. We're going to wish we had plays back. But the number one goal is to score touchdowns in a red zone. That's a huge part of our plan to win. We've been good in that in the past, not as good today.
Over to the right, Clay Hall, WSYX.
Multiple choice. Tommy Eichenberg, he's been a great tackler today. He's a pass catcher. Mm-hmm. Do you need more from the running game as you go forward? That was a concern late in the year last year. How about the run game?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll have to look and see what we did well, but what we need to improve on, and where we need to, tighten up, and kind of evaluate it from there. Certainly the numbers don't look great, but there were some good things, and I think there was a sack, right? So, I mean, that may have affected that, on the fumble. So, again, we'll look at it, assess it, and figure out where it's at. But, we want to be balanced.
But are you not concerned because of so much talent in the receiving corps?
I don't know if concern is the right thing, but, we're going to have to go back and figure out how we run the ball better. That's for sure. And figure out how we're going to do that. But that's every week. If I have to throw the ball better, let's figure out how to, score points in a red zone better. That's every week. But to say I'm concerned, I wouldn't say that. But we're going to need better play moving forward.
Over to the left, last one on the left, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you touched on some of the turnovers. Early in the year, you guys weren't getting those. You've now gotten them pretty consecutively. And then obviously the big breakout today. How important is to have that start rolling as you get into this late stretch of the season here?
Yeah, it's very important. And like you said, the challenges are going to get bigger and bigger. And so we need we need balance across the board. We need complementary football. We need special teams. We need everything. We need all of the above. But again, this is a very good team coming in here. They played a team up north really well. It was 20-7 in the fourth quarter. They played Illinois really well. They had the fumble return to go win the game. They called it back, and Illinois kicks the field goal to win the game. Illinois, had a really good year. They played some good teams, and we had a lot of respect for this team coming in, and they played well, especially on defense. And so for us to win like this, it's good, but there's still a lot to improve on and a lot to grow from, like you said.
Last two for Coach. We're going to go Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com, and then Tim May, Letterman Row on 3.
I just wanted to clarify, Jackson came out of the game, it seemed like he was really stretching that leg out. He was talking to medical personnel. So that route was going to be his last route that he ran today. I just wanted to clarify that. And can you talk about, I guess, just were you able to evaluate him enough today as to what you saw from him, how he moved, that sort of thing?
I think so. Yeah, I think we'll be able to evaluate it. We'll watch the film and see. But we had about 20 plays. I think he was right in that range. And once he got to that number and that drive, that was it.
Right. What is it like to have an offense at your disposal that you're trying to crack that safe first half? And I know you call plays you think are going to work.
Right.
They don't. But you have this passing game that just revved up in the second half. What is it like calling plays for an offense like this if you follow my drift? Because Iowa impressed me as much on defense today as they have all year.
That's right.
Y'all scored 54. Go ahead.
Well, Tommy scored one of those, so we'll give Tommy credit for that one. But no, I think it all went to the defense and the way the defense put the offense in a great position to score. But it was a strange game that way because there were so many turnovers and we were plus territory, just didn't finish the drives. But I don't know how many times we punted. Looked like we punted 3 times. One was at the end, so. Kind of strange, when you look at it. We didn't have a lot of drives that started like on the 20-yard line and we moved them across the field. But to answer your question, we have great weapons. We have to continue to figure out ways to find that balance. We got to continue to practice well so that we can execute well because these plays and these matchup games are going to become more and more important. And so the margin for error is going to be tinier and tiny.
But you always feel there's something on that sheet that's going to work eventually. Is that the way you personally go into a game like this? That something on that play sheet's going to work?
Well, I think, it's like if they're taking this away, then they probably are giving up something here. And they certainly were doing a great job stopping the run. So typically, they have to give up something on the perimeter. And I think we found that there in the third, fourth quarter.
Great. Coach, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.